Question 1. Through careful analysis of HVACR maintenance protocols, Henry is assigned to service a large rooftop unit scheduled for replacement. Before beginning the lockout tagout procedure, he notifies the site supervisor and begins isolating the unit. However, due to an error in scheduling, two contractors working in adjacent systems are unaware of the shutdown. The unit shares auxiliary power feeds and remote alarms with adjacent units. What should have done differently during the pre-LOTO phase to ensure full compliance with 20 CFR 1910.147? A. He should have used a group lockout box to secure the equipment more tightly. B. He should have tagged only the main disconnect since auxiliary feeds don't require isolation. C. He should have conducted full system energy audit and ensured notification of all affected employees, including those indirectly connected. D. He should have installed additional physical barriers to restrict access to the rooftop unit. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. According to OSHA 29 CFR 1910.147 C1, C6, pre-LOTO steps include notifying all affected employees and identifying all energy sources, including those that may affect other systems. Henry failed to identify interconnected feeds and personnel indirectly impacted by his actions. System energy audit is critical in complex systems with shared circuits. Auxiliary alarms, barriers D may restrict physical access but don't replace proper notification. Group lockout A is used for multiple workers on the same system but not substitute for hazard identification. B ignores OSHA's requirement to isolate all energy sources. Question 2. With the advent of increasingly complex HVACR systems, identifying energy sources before maintenance has become more critical. During an annual inspection of a multi-zone commercial chiller system, technician Carla discovers that the unit stores energy via hydraulic accumulators and electrical capacitors, in addition to standard line voltage. What is the best course of action Carla must take before proceeding with LOTO procedures? A. Discharge capacitors and bleed hydraulic lines to release stored energy. B. Lock out only the electrical supply since it's the primary energy source. C. Disconnect sensors and controls to prevent false signals. D. Tag out only the accumulator and document the procedure. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Per 29 CFR 1910.147 D5, all stored energy must be relieved, disconnected, restrained, or otherwise rendered safe before servicing. This includes electrical, hydraulic, pneumatic, and mechanical energy. Carla must bleed accumulators and discharge capacitors, which can retain lethal energy even after disconnection. Tagging without releasing energy D. Non-compliant. Focusing only on electrical B is insufficient. Disconnecting controls C is irrelevant to energy isolation. Question 3. From a practical standpoint, why is it necessary that tagout devices display specific information and meet minimum performance criteria under OSHA's standard? A. Because they are used in tandem with lockout devices and serve mainly secondary function. B. Because tags are often ignored and need reinforcement through verbal instructions. C. Because they are the only means of energy isolation and must withstand physical tampering. D. Because tagout devices must clearly identify the person who applied them, the date, and the hazard to ensure accountability and visibility. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Under OSHA 1910.147 C5, tagout devices must be durable, legible, standardized, and identify the authorized employee, data time, and hazardous condition. While tagouts don't provide physical restraint, their role in accountability and hazard communication is critical. Tags are never a replacement for locks. C. Tags must not rely solely on verbal communication. B. Although tagouts may serve a secondary function to locks, A, when used alone, they must meet stricter visibility and administrative requirements. Question 4. Considering the evidence, Technician Malik performs lockout tagout on a rooftop HVAC unit. He follows correct procedures, shuts off breakers, applies his lock and places tags. However, during the tryout step, the unit still powers on momentarily before shutting down completely. What should Malik interpret from this observation? A. The equipment is safe since it shut down after moment. B. There is residual stored energy or an alternative energy feed that has not been isolated. C. The breaker is faulty and should be tagged for replacement. D. Tryout tests are optional and don't require corrective action. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. According to 1910.147d6, verification is required to ensure complete energy isolation if the equipment powers on even momentarily indicates stored energy, e.g. capacitors, or a secondary feed wasn't isolated. Malik must investigate and release all stored energy, declaring the equipment safe. A is reckless. Faulty breakers. C could be factor, but the is with isolation verification. Tryout tests are not optional. D. An vital LOTO step. Question 5. When analyzing HVACR maintenance, technician Dana completes repairs on a low-pressure chiller. After verifying the system, she removes her personal lock and tag. As she restores power, an affected employee enters the area unannounced due to a communication breakdown. What critical LOTO protocol did Dana likely violate during the restoration phase? A. She failed to wait a full 5 minutes before energizing the unit. B. She did not recheck the system's refrigerant charge before restart. C. She failed to ensure that all affected employees were safely clear before re-energizing the system. D. She used an incorrect lockout device on the panel. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per 29 CFR 1910.147e. 3. Before removing LOTO devices and re-energizing equipment, all affected employees must be accounted for and safely positioned. Dana violated this critical step, risking injury to nearby personnel. There's no OSHA mandated 5-minute wait. A. Checking refrigerant. B. Is good practice but not LOTO related. Incorrect device would be an issue earlier, not at the restoration phase. Question 6. The fundamental question is what distinguishes an authorized employer from an affected employee under the OSHA LOTO standard. A. Authorized employees are trained to perform LOTO while affected employees merely observe LOTO in effect. B. Authorized employees supervise the LOTO process while affected employees implement it. C. Authorized employees are external contractors. Affected employees are in-house. D. Authorized employees manage LOTO records. Affected employees maintain tools and storage. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Per OSHA 29 CFR 1910.147b, an authorized employee is one who locks out or tags out machines to perform servicing or maintenance. An affected employee operates or uses the equipment or works in an area where LOTO is used but doesn't perform LOTO themselves. B, C, and D describe roles not aligned with OSHA definitions. Only authorized employees perform energy isolation. Question 7. Demonstrated by a shutdown of a central HVACR system in a hospital. 3 technicians, Santiago Prea and Lucas, are working on different modules of the same system. Group lockout is applied using Haspen lockbox system. Later, Santiago removes his tag and lock, assuming others are finished. The system is accidentally re-energized while Lucas is still working. Which protocol failure most likely led to the re-energization? A. Prea used personal lock, not listed in the LOTO register. B. The lockbox system was not maintained under the control of designated authorized employee. C. Santiago misunderstood the energy source layout of the HVACR system. D. Group LOTO doesn't apply to modular systems and should not have been used. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. In Group LOTO OSHA 1910.147 F3 Omentur requires one authorized employee to be assigned primary responsibility for verifying isolation and coordinating group lockout. If no central control exists, the risk of miscommunication rises sharply. The failure here was administrative control of the lockbox. Santiago acted prematurely, likely due to oversight. A is procedural but not the cause of re-energization. C. Misunderstands group roles. D is incorrect. Group LOTO is valid in modular systems. Question 8. In contrast to electrical shutdowns, stored mechanical energy poses ongoing risks during HVACR maintenance. Technician Elena is tasked with repairing a rooftop exhaust damper powered by a spring return actuator. She shuts off electrical power and applies a lockout but neglects the spring mechanism. What could result from this oversight? A. The system will remain inert because electrical supply was disconnected. B. The spring actuator may release energy suddenly, causing mechanical injury. C. The damper may self-reset without risk to personnel. D. The tagout alone will prevent actuation of the damper. Answer. Correct answer B. Explanation. OSHA requires all stored energy, mechanical, pneumatic, hydraulic, to be neutralized under 1910.147d5. Spring mechanisms can exert significant force and must be restrained or released. Disconnecting electricity is not enough. Tagouts D do not prevent mechanical movement. A net system is false if mechanical energy remains. C is speculative and incorrect with energy control. Question 9. The impact of LOTO violations can be catastrophic. During an audit, a maintenance manager discovers that technicians frequently bypass LOTO steps on refrigeration compressors due to perceived time constraints. One technician explains that the low-voltage control circuit is safe enough and doesn't need full LOTO. What systemic issue is most evident here? A. Inadequate signage on control panels. B. Improper training and cultural tolerance for non-compliance. C. Lack of engineering controls on compressors. D. Control circuits fall outside LOTO requirements. Answer. Correct answer B. Explanation. Under OSHA 1910.147c7, employers must train employees on the purpose and procedures of LOTO and enforce compliance. Repeated violations signal a failure in training or safety culture. Control circuits, even at low voltage, can energize hazardous components and must be included in LOTO. A is minor signage. C may help, but training and discipline are foundational. D is incorrect. Control circuits do require lockout if they can activate machinery. Question 10. By evaluating the HVACR service requirements for circuit breaker isolation, technician Marcus encounters a panel with recessed breakers that cannot be padlocked directly. What is the most appropriate lockout method? A breaker lockout device that fits over the recessed switch and accommodates a padlock. B. Tag the panel door and notify the supervisor. C. Shut off the breaker and apply tape over the switch. D. Open the panel and disconnect wires from the breaker. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. According to 1910.147c5, lockout devices must be used whenever feasible, and breaker lockout attachments are made for non-lockable switches. Taping C is insufficient. Tagging only. B is non-compliant when lockout is feasible. Disconnecting wires. D is dangerous and unauthorized. The correct method uses application-specific lockout devices such as clamp-on breaker that accept padlocks. Question 11. Following an OSHA inspection, it was found that several HVACR technicians at a facility were unaware of LOTO procedures for the new ammonia-based refrigeration system. The employer claimed that only the maintenance supervisor needed the training, not the technicians. Which OSHA violation is evident here? A. Failure to properly supervise affected employees during shutdown. B. Failure to train affected employees on emergency egress during ammonia release. C. Failure to ensure that all authorized employees receive training on applicable energy control procedures. D. Failure to use physical barriers for system components under maintenance. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147c7I mandates that all authorized employees be trained to recognize applicable hazardous energy sources and understand LOTO procedures. The employer's claim that only supervisors need training is invalid. Supervisory status does not exempt others from required training. Affected employees must also receive awareness level training. Barriers and emergency procedures fall under separate standards. Question 12. During preventive maintenance, HVACR technician Neil performs LOTO using a Tagout-only system because the panel switch has no locking provision. He assumes the tag alone is sufficient since the machine is rarely used. What critical oversight has Neil made? A. He used a tag that wasn't laminated for outdoor use. B. He failed to follow the proper order of tag placement. C. He should have used an additional energy control method since Tagout only requires demonstrated full employee protection. D. He didn't place duplicate tag at the secondary disconnect. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. According to 1910.147c3, 2 Tagout-only systems are only permissible when lockout is not possible and the employer demonstrates that the Tagout system provides full employee protection equivalent to a lockout. Neil failed to implement supplementary control measures, e.g. removing fuses or blocking switch actuators, lamination and tag order. A. B. D. compared to the compliance breach in C. Question 13. In a high-humidity HVACR control room, technician Rhonda uses a standard paper LOTO tag which becomes illegible after 30 minutes due to condensation. A coworker then enters the area and resets the controls, unaware of ongoing maintenance. What does this incident highlight about tagout procedures? A. Tags must be printed with a red border to improve visibility. B. Tags must meet environmental durability standards and remain legible for the duration of the task. C. Only authorized personnel should carry laminated tags for wet environments. D. Control rooms should be dehumidified before tagout devices are applied. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Per OSHA 1910.147 C. Tagout devices must be durable enough to withstand the environmental conditions in which they're used. If tags become illegible due to moisture or weather, they fail to meet this requirement. Visibility A is not sufficient if the tag is unreadable. Restricting tags to certain personnel. C is impractical. Dehumidification. D. Unrealistic and not required by OSHA. Question 14. While servicing an HVAC air handler during a shift change, technician Elijah removes his lock and tag, assuming his coworker will apply their own. However, the coworker is delayed and the unit is restarted by operations staff, causing equipment damage. Which protocol should have been followed during the personnel transition? A. Elijah should have extended his shift to wait for the coworker. B. Elijah and his coworker should have signed off on a supervisor log instead of relocking. C. A formal lock transfer procedure should have been conducted so the coworker could apply their lock before Elijah removed his. D. Elijah should have verbally told the control room operator to keep the unit offline. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per OSHA 1910.147 F3. Momentally during shift changes, continuity of lockout protection must be maintained and incoming personnel must apply their own locks before outgoing personnel remove theirs. Verbal warnings. D. Are insufficient. Nogs. B. Don't replace lock application. Elijah staying longer. A. Is not requirement or solution. Question 15. In a multi-building facility, an HVAC technician is locking out a variable refrigerant flow (VRF) system that uses remote compressors located in another mechanical room. The disconnect in the immediate work area is deactivated and tagged, but the compressors remain energized. Why is this LOTO incomplete? A. ERF systems can only be isolated using system software. B. Only the remote compressors require lockout since the indoor units have no moving parts. C. All energy sources must be de-energized and isolated, including remote and secondary components. E. ERF systems don't fall under OSHA's LOTO standard due to their distributed architecture. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147 D4 requires all energy sources to be isolated. ERF systems often have distributed energy across different rooms or even buildings. Isolating one local disconnect is insufficient if remote compressors remain energized. B is dangerous and incorrect. Software may assist but doesn't replace physical isolation. D is false. ERF systems are covered by the LOTO standard. Question 16. An HVACR contractor is hired to service rooftop condensers in an industrial plant. The host employer provides minimal LOTO orientation and fails to coordinate procedures. A plant technician energizes a unit mid-service, nearly causing electrocution. Who holds primary responsibility for coordinating LOTO procedures in this situation? A. The contractor's safety supervisor, who should have declined the job. B. The authorized technician from the plant, who failed to see the contractor. C. The host employer, who must ensure energy control coordination with all outside personnel. D. OSHA for not providing contractor-specific lockout regulations. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Under OSHA 1910.147 F2I, host employers are responsible for ensuring that outside contractors are informed of the energy control procedures and that coordination takes place. The host must prevent LOTO failures through communication and planning. Contractors also have obligations, but ultimate coordination falls to the employer controlling the worksite. Question 17. During fire damper servicing, HVACR technician locks out the control panel but doesn't account for the automatic spring return actuator tied to a building's fire alarm system. Later, the actuator engages, nearly injuring another tech. Which energy source did Elise fail to control? The pneumatic stored energy. B. Fire suppression pressure line. C. Mechanical stored energy via spring. D. Faulty building alarm reset circuit. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Spring return actuators store mechanical energy which must be released or blocked during maintenance. 1910.147 D5. These devices can move suddenly, posing crushing or pinching hazards. Elise failed to isolate this energy, making C the correct answer. Pneumatic head and suppression. B. Are unrelated here. A faulty alarm. D. May trigger it, but the root cause was unneutral. Mechanical energy. Question 18. After locking out an HVAC rooftop blower unit, technician Ramon skips the tryout step because he hears the motor stop. Unknown to him, the unit is controlled by a variable frequency drive (VFD) with a time delay restart setting. What verification error did Ramon commit? A. He didn't allow the motor windings to fully cool. B. He failed to measure voltage at the blower terminals. C. He didn't confirm the VFD had fully discharged and the unit could not restart. D. He used visual instead of ultrasonic inspection for confirmation. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147 D6 requires a verification of isolation, including any time delay features or stored energy. VFDs can hold power or resume operation automatically unless properly shut down and discharged. C is the correct answer. Measuring voltage. B helps but wouldn't confirm delayed auto restart. And D are irrelevant to lockout verification. Question 19. For portable HVAC vacuum pumps, technician Nina simply unplugs the device and begins servicing it without applying a lock or tag, reasoning that the plug is now isolated. What OSHA condition would make this action acceptable? A. If the plug remains under the exclusive control of the authorized employee. B. If the pump has an internal fuse and ground fault interrupter. C. If a tag is attached stating do not use. D. If the circuit breaker upstream is locked out. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Per 1910.147 A. 2. Omen 3. Cord and plug-connected equipment is exempt from full LOTO procedures if unplugging completely removes the hazard and the plug is under exclusive control of the servicing employee. Locking a breaker. D is unnecessary. Fuses. B and tags. C alone don't meet the OSHA exception criteria. Question 20. The safety manager performs the annual LOTO inspection for HVAC systems and simply emails a checklist to employees to fill out without observing any actual procedures or reviewing authorized employee knowledge. Why is this method non-compliant? A. Because checklists are never allowed in OSHA inspections. B. Because periodic inspections must include observation of procedures and employee interviews. C. Because only third-party auditors can conduct LOTO inspections. D. Because annual reviews are not required for HVAC systems. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Per 1910.147 C6 I. Periodic inspections must include direct observation of LOTO procedures, correction of deviations, and interviews with employees. Emailing a checklist without verification is not compliant. Checklists they can supplement but not replace observation. C is false. Employers can conduct inspections. D is incorrect. HVAC systems are covered under the standard. Question 21. An HVAC technician is working on a rooftop economizer damper assembly when a large counterweight suddenly drops due to a corroded pin narrowly missing their hand. No lockout was placed on the damper because it was assumed to be mechanically at rest. Which step in the lockout process was missed? A. Proper grounding of the actuator. B. Disconnection of pneumatic control lines. C. Isolation or blocking of gravity stored energy components. D. Verification of tag visibility from the work area. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147 D5 mandates that all forms of stored energy, including gravitational, be relieved, blocked or restrained at before work begins. Counterweights and moving dampers are especially hazardous. Tag visibility D and grounding. They don't address this issue. Pneumatic lines B could be involved but are not the root cause here. Question 22. Two HVACR technicians are performing concurrent work on a chilled water pump. The disconnect has one hasp installed with technician 1's lock, but technician 2 only tags the unit, saying they trust the other guy. Where's the compliance issue? Technician 2 failed to wear rubber gloves during lockout. B. OSHA prohibits placing more than one lock on hasp. C. Each technician must apply their own lock. Tag only is non-compliant in this case. D. The pump should have been isolated at the VFD instead. Answer. Correct answer. See explanation. Per 1910.147 D4I, each authorized employee must apply their own personal lockout device. Relying on another person's lock and only using tag which doesn't prevent startup is direct violation. Multiple locks are explicitly allowed via hasps. Govs A and VFD isolation D are unrelated to the procedural error. Question 23. The technician leaves the lock on an HVAC service disconnect but goes home sick without notifying anyone. After several hours, maintenance needs to restore power urgently due to a building emergency. What steps must be taken before removing the lock per OSHA? A. Notify the technician's emergency contact to authorize removal. B. Cut the lock immediately since it's an emergency. C. Follow written lock removal procedures, verify the employee is not on site and inform them upon return. D. Replace the lock with supervisor's lock until the technician returns. Answer. Correct answer. See explanation. Under 1910.147E3, if an authorized employee's lock must be removed and they are unavailable, the employer must follow a specific documented procedure. This includes verifying the employee's absence, attempting to notify them, and informing them before resuming work. Skipping this is a major compliance issue. Question 24. During a service call, a technician de-energizes an HVAC rooftop unit by turning off the thermostat but leaves the disconnect energized. While working inside the unit, the control board suddenly energizes and delivers a mild shock. What mistake did the technician make? A. The thermostat was set too low. B. The disconnect was not opened, leaving line voltage present. C. A ground fault interrupter failed. D. Control transformers were locked but not tagged. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147A1I makes clear that control circuit devices like thermostats are not acceptable substitutes for disconnecting the main energy source. Line voltage remained in the unit, causing unexpected energization. GSS and transformer tagging C, D don't resolve the key error. Question 25. An HVAC technician needs to test a boiler's flame rollout switch after LOTO procedures have been applied. Testing requires momentary energization of the system. What must be done before proceeding? A. Remove the tagout device but leave the lock in place. B. Leave the tag and lock in place and energize the system using bypass. C. Follow temporary removal procedures, clear personnel, and reapply LOTO immediately after testing. D. Have second technician hold the disconnect partially open to allow short burst of power. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per 1910.147 F1, for testing or positioning, temporary removal of lockout devices is allowed only if energy is restored under strict conditions. Personnel must be cleared, devices removed per procedure, test conducted, and LOTO immediately reapplied. Options A, B, and D are all unsafe or non-compliant. Question 26. A subcontractor is servicing HVACR on a job site where the general contractor is unaware of the energy control procedures being used. A misunderstanding results in the ATUS being powered up while service is in progress. What is the primary breakdown in this situation? A. The subcontractor should have installed wireless sensors for lockout. B. The general contractor failed to coordinate LOTO with all parties involved. C. The rooftop units were not installed with mechanical interlocks. D. The subcontractor should have used only tagout systems. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. According to OSHA 1910.147, FU Omen to host and contractor employers must coordinate energy control procedures. Lack of coordination leads to hazards during shared work. Wireless sensors, they are mechanical interlocks. C. Are irrelevant to the LOTO coordination failure. Tagout only systems. D. Are insufficient and not the core issue. Question 27. A 6-person HVACR team is working on a central chiller using a group lockout box system. Only the lead technician applies the lock to the energy isolating devices. If the others place their locks on the group box, what condition would make this system compliant? A. If each technician signs a waiver acknowledging shared lockout. B. If all isolation points are visually verified by each technician. C. If a designated authorized employee applies the locks and the group box is secured properly. D. If the team agrees to check in every 15 minutes. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per 1910.147 F3, group lockout is acceptable when a designated authorized employee applies locks to all energy sources and places the keys in a lock box. Each worker then places their personal lock on the box. This ensures that no one can remove locks or energize the system until all employees are safe. Question 20. After HVAC maintenance, technician removes a lock from a rooftop unit and restores power. Moments later, another technician shouts that he was still inside the access hatch conducting a final visual check. Which re-energization requirement was violated? A. Verification that all power sources were energized correctly. B. The disconnect was not labeled clearly enough. C. Confirmation that all personnel were safely positioned before removing the last lock. D. Tagout devices were removed in the wrong sequence. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147 requires that before lockout removal, the authorized employee must ensure that all personnel are safely positioned or removed from danger zones. Lies failure to do this nearly caused serious harm. Labeling in sequence B, D are not the root issue. Question 29. While servicing a rooftop HVAC lift, technician Mark isolates electrical power but fails to release hydraulic pressure stored in the lift's piston. The lift descends slowly during work and traps his hand. What energy source did Mark fail to control? A. Chemical expansion pressure. B. Residual pneumatic vapor. C. Stored hydraulic energy. D. Compressed nitrogen shock load. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147 D5 addresses stored energy in all forms. Hydraulic systems must be de-energized, bled off, or otherwise rendered safe. Mark's oversight is classic. Removing electrical power is not enough if mechanical or hydraulic pressure remains. Question 30. Technician Sarah creates her own tagout labels using laminated paper and zip ties. During an audit, it's discovered her tags can be easily removed without using excessive force or tools. Why are her tags non-compliant? A. They aren't ANSI color-coded. B. They lack equipment serial numbers. C. They don't meet the minimum unremovable force of 50 pounds. D. They're not bilingual. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.147 C5 requires that tagout devices be attachable by hand but not removable without excessive force. Approx. 50 pounds zip ties that can be pulled off easily violate this standard. ANSI colors A and serials B may help but aren't mandatory. Bilingual labels D are only required if necessary for comprehension.